Now, I've been asked quite consistently what were my thoughts on this AP code 1159 disaster. And I want to just make a quick video addressing it. And also, I think it unearths an important talking point. And I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments down below about what do we really value as consumers from a watch. But let's get into this. At SIHH 2019, AP released a new lineup of watches titled Code 1159. The watches were a culmination of over a half-decade of work and research and development from the brand, and was said, even by their CEO, to be the biggest watch release that the brand has underwent since 1972 with the Royal Oak. With the release of this line, they also bring in 13 new references, 6 new watches, and 3 in-house movements, featuring a 3-hand automatic, a chronograph, a Grand Sonnerie, a flying tourbillon, a tourbillon open work, and a perpetual calendar. In addition to the many years of research and development, you can just tell from a mental perspective how much AP has invested in this particular lineup, with the CEO, Francois Benaminez, stating that they believe that the potential Code 1159 series could account for 20% of AP's total sales in future years. Definitely an ambitious attempt. So what are my thoughts on this watch? Now, I've been saying for years that AP is not necessarily my favorite brand, but I do respect the Royal Oak, and that I think speaks to what the whole mission behind this particular line was to really demonstrate that they are more than the Royal Oak. And I think a lot of people throw around that joke that they are just that. I mean, there's certainly some upside to it. The calibers, the new in-house calibers look really solid, and the finishing on that, as well as the case and that interesting crystal that is on the watch with kind of the indented center and it flares out at the ends. It is interesting, but I think the dial is the reason for so much conversation. And I think many people will write off a watch right away. I am included in that. If it does not look right, if I cannot fall in love with the dial and its outward appearance, it doesn't really matter what's underneath the hood for me. That's going to cancel it out from me ever being able to sport that watch, especially when I'm considering spending a lot of money, which these APs are very expensive, and I think also leads into a lot of the criticism. When you're positioning these watches, you're trying to be part of the holy trinity of watchmaking, and you have these $20,000 watches really starting off prices for those entry-level 3-hand models, those automatic models. You're starting to get a lot of resentment because these watches, sure, some of them I don't think look as bad as what a lot of people are saying, but you're talking about a $20,000 watch, and I think a $20,000 watch should look like a $20,000 watch. I think the chronograph version looks all right, but you know, I'd rather get a Longa for that money. If I'm looking at the perpetual calendar, which I think is probably the best of the offering in terms of an overall aesthetic, from my opinion, I mean, we're talking $74,000 here. So it certainly is a big ask, and I think when you're judging this watch, I think it's important to keep that in mind, is that this is the holy trinity. These watches come with a few different precious metal options. The white gold option did have me a little concerned when I was looking at it, and I've just seen a lot of photos, a lot of videos, and a lot of coverage of this watch from other channels, and I noticed that the lacquer dials with the white gold indices was very hard to read. It was basically not even legible. So in short, yes, I understand why AP is getting so much hate, and they probably should. I'm not going to be somebody to say hold back on a brand. If a brand misses the mark, I think we have every right as a consumer to let them know of it. And I think AP is probably a little perplexed. You kind of see this right now with a lot of what is going on. When their CEO was in an interview with Revolution, with Wei Ko, what he said to justify it, you can tell they're so far deep into trying to make sure this watch works because they probably put so much money behind this. At one point, he brought up a 19-year-old on social media writing him a note and how he loves the Code 1159, which I thought was a little ridiculous, considering a 19-year-old is probably not the overall target market. Now, I can link down below to that interview if you want to check it out. But one thing I want to address is the fact that I think AP, despite missing clearly with this watch, they did not hit the mark. I think they're doing a good thing by trying something new. And this has all had me consider a few things. And one, most importantly, is what do we value from watches and from watch brands? What do we want to see from them? Because here's the thing, I think AP's failure in hitting these Code 1159s is actually commendable, for one thing, because they're actually trying something new. And I think what we so often demand as consumers is to try maybe something of innovation, but in practice, we usually are giving praise to the brands that stick to the heritage, that stick to what has been working for so long. You can look at Rolex, for example. I was watching this video of this very humble old man. He had a vintage Rolex GMT Master. He bought it back in 1960 for $100 for a paycheck. And think about the innovation that went into that piece. Nowadays, and he bought that watch with 1 month's salary in the military at that time. Now fast forward to today, what innovation are we getting for return for the increase in price? Are brands simply just going off of what has worked for so long? And if that's the case, why do we accept it? What do we demand? And what do we really value from brands? I thought this all brings forth this important question and an interesting question where I want to see kind of comments down below. What do you guys look for in a brand? What constitutes a good release from a bad release? And I'd love to see what parameters you guys set around that, because I think what AP did was great. The fact that they tried something new. It's probably going to be a horrible effect. And now I think just because they're getting so much hate, I'm afraid they're not going to be willing to risk it again. And if I was AP, what I would want them to do is kind of double down on the code 1159. Of course, they need to change some things. They absolutely need to change some things. But there's some groundwork there that they can work off of. And I also think it would be a great example and set a new precedent for maybe what we want to see as consumers and also what brands ought to do in today's digital day and age with this constant feedback and how they can feed off of what consumers want to improve on models and really do try to innovate compared to just remaining complacent and sticking with what works. So guys, those are just some thoughts. I'm just kind of rambling and ranting here, but I'd love to hear your comments down below. If you like this video, if you like this conversation, give this video a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe, hit that bell icon. And speaking of getting iconic pieces and pieces that stick to heritage, if you want to get one of those watches, definitely check out the link down below. I partnered up with Bob's Watches, one of the largest online retailers in the world. So go ahead, head there. And any purchase also supports the channel. Also go check out my website, have some amazing watch straps available there, which also support the channel. And then finally, if you want to join our watch giveaway, fill out the watch giveaway form and then follow me on Instagram. So guys, love to hear your thoughts. Thanks again so much for watching. Be well, and I will see you all very soon.